Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today I'm gonna show you how to make this isometric modern house illustration and how to use Blender's tools to make your life easier. And I really hope you will enjoy this one, and if you do, please don't forget to leave that like, and if you're new around here and want to learn more, hit that subscribe. Let's now jump into Blender and let's select the light and the cube here, press X and choose delete. We'll leave the camera in place for now, and let's press Shift A and let's start with the plane. Now tap into the edit mode and let's press S and we'll scale this up, and we're looking at, for example, something like 10 or 12 meters should be enough for like a small house within. Yeah, something like this should work just fine. And now let's press E and extrude this down to be the base for the diorama, something like this. Let's press A and Shift N to recalculate normals. Now tab out, let's press Shift A and let's add another plane. And now tab into the edit mode and let's scale this up like this. This should be a garage or something, so something like 4 or 5 meters. Now tab out, press G then Z and move this to the side here. Now tab back in and press E and extrude. Now tab out, let's press Shift A and add another plane. Let's look from the top. Tab into the edit mode and press S to scale it up like this, and tab out and press G and move it to the side, something like this. Maybe we can make it more narrow, so tab into the edit mode, press S then Y and scale on Y axis a little bit. Okay, and additionally move it slightly. Okay, something like this. Now let's tab into the edit mode and we'll extrude this and create a shape like that. So the way I'm imagining it is, this is the garage. Here we'll have a entrance and here are some windows on top. So yeah, something like this should work just fine. Now let's create the roof structure. So on top here, I'll just separate this and duplicate. So press Shift D, right click to release, press P and separate the selection. You can see the new object right here. So tab out, select that new object, tab into the edit mode, and we can just press A and we can just press E to extrude. And now press 3 for face select, alt click this loop and press Alt S to scale it outside. And now press S to enable even scaling and just go over just a tiny bit like this. Now select the top face, press I to inset, and like this. If you're just starting Blender and you have trouble following the tutorials, make sure to check out my courses as well, where in addition to the step-by-step instructions, you also get full in-depth explanation of all the tools and all the tricks, and you get to learn everything from simple low-poly design all the way to full character illustration, textured environments, hard surface modeling, a little bit of sculpting. So if you're interested, please check out the link in the description. So we have a little bit of a more structure there. And I'll do the similar thing down here for the garage. But I want something a little bit more sophisticated with a little bit of an overhang here. So let's select this, tab into the edit mode, and since this is already selected, press Shift D and right click to release, P enter to separate, tab out, select that new object, tab back in, and then press A and E to extrude. And now let's select this face here, press G then X and move it right here. And now this one, press G then Y and move it outside. So this is what I'm gonna create here, and here it might be nice to have something going down as well. So let's press E to extrude, and now here. Now if you want to match this perfectly at the bottom, you can switch the snapping to vertex, press G, Z and hold Ctrl and snap it to the bottom vertex. Now let's play with that roof a little bit more. So let's select this face or both of those, press G then Z and move it up. And now Ctrl R to create a cut right here. Okay, one more here and one here, and we'll extrude this down as well. So press 3 for face select again, select this face and extrude it down. I'll create some kind of like a green roof there or something like that, so it looks nice. Now let's select everything here and press S to scale it down a little bit. I think I made it too large. And maybe push it back here a little bit, and now press Ctrl A and apply that scale. So now the shape of the house is done. Let's figure out some windows. I think there's too little space for the windows up here, so we can select both of these objects, tap into the edit mode. Let's enable X-ray view, and now you can just select everything here on top, press G then Z and move it up like this. And now I want to show you a method how easily you can create multiple windows. So let's start with the first one. So I will shift right click here in the middle where I want the window to appear. And now let's press Shift A and add a plane. Now tab into the edit mode, press R, then X and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. And let's press S then Z and scale it down. So something like this should work nicely. Now let's tab out and let's press Shift D to duplicate this. So we have two of those overlapping. Now tab into the edit mode and let's press E and extrude. This will be the cutout object that we'll use to cut into the house. So press A and Shift N to recalculate normals. Now press G then Y and still in the edit mode, push it inside like this. Now we'll need to modify this a little bit, so tab out. And here in the object settings, you can go to visibility and disable visibility in renders. So this doesn't render out, we'll just use it to cut. And next in the viewport display, we can switch display as bounds. So this is the only object that will be visible right here. And now select the house. Let's go to the modifiers and let's add Boolean modifier. We can search for bool and we'll choose this object right here. And now if I move this away, the original plane, you can see we have the cutout right there. So now with this plane selected, let's hold Shift, select the cutout object, press Ctrl P and parent. So now we can place the window a little bit better. So press G then Y, move it inside, and we'll create the frame. So tab into the edit mode, press I to inset, and we'll press P to separate this. Select all by pressing A and E to extrude to create the frame. And again, A and Shift N. That's a habit that I have to always recalculate normals. And now let's select this piece right here. And we can press G then Y and move it towards the front a little bit. Now, if you want more complicated window, it's really easy. You can just go into the edit mode, for example, and select this face on the side, press Shift D, move it right here, and E to extrude. And then maybe move it back a little bit. So if you want something a little bit more sophisticated. And again, you can always check the normals with face orientation right here. And all of those are correct right now. But in case something is red here, you can always go into the edit mode, select all and recalculate normals. So now additionally what I want to do is to add some beveling. So let's select, for example, the roof. Let's add the bevel modifier and we'll configure it a little bit. So first of all, in the geometry, let's switch this to arc and let's change the amount to something really small and increase segments to 2. And in the shading, enable harden normals, right click and shade smooth. So this is the look I'm going for. So we can basically select all of the other objects by holding Shift, including the window frame, and hold Shift and select this one as last and click here and copy to select it. And now we have the same bevel modifier on all of our objects. And now, since the original plane was parented to this, if you move this, all of the other objects that are duplicated from it are still parented. So we have this nice window template that we can move around. So first of all, you need to select everything. So you can just right click and select hierarchy and press Alt D to duplicate linked, press X and duplicate it right here. But you can see the cutout isn't there because we need to go into the object and duplicate this Boolean and basically just choose this cutout object and we have the same thing. Now you might get some artifacts like this when you're using Booleans. The easiest way how to get rid of it is to add more geometry to the underlying object. So here, if you look how Blender solved the cutouts, the geometry is a little bit messy and it will help to have like a cut through those windows. So we can just go in, press Ctrl R and place a cut right here, and you can see this helps to solve the issue because now the Booleans are connected through the middle right here and it doesn't cause any problems. So those are the first windows we can create. And now it's easy to reuse this kind of window. If you look from the side, the origin point should be right here on the wall if you select this cutout object, so it's easy to snap to the faces. So again, I will select the hierarchy and go here and switch this to face project. But in this case, I will press Shift D because I want a unique duplicate of this, and hold Control and snap it to the wall here. And now you can just select this, press R then Z and 90 degrees. And again, we'll duplicate the boolean and choose the new cutout object. So now let's select the hierarchy again, tab into the edit mode, and we're in the edit mode of multiple objects. So if you look from the side here by pressing 3 on the numpad and enable X-ray view, you can easily modify the whole thing. So you can press 1 for vertex select and just select these vertices, press G then Y and move them closer, and do the same thing here. And if you look from this side, you can see we're selecting all of the vertices from all of the objects, so we're modifying the cutout object as well. So yeah, let's move this right here, and right here we can press L, hovering over this, press X and just get rid of it by deleting the vertices. And now if you tab out and toggle the X-ray, or you can switch the X-ray off here, you can see we have a new type of window, but it still works the same. I will just align the height a little bit like this. And now we can again select the hierarchy, press Alt D and duplicate this down here. So we have another one. I won't create any more, but you can go wild here in the back. You can go and create like patio and those like large window portals, whatever you want. But since I want this camera shot here, I won't go and create any new windows. I will just create a door right here. By the way, we can easily reuse this template for the door as well. So while this is still selected, press Shift D. So again, we're sure that this is a unique copy, and hold Control and snap it here on the wall. And now press R then Z and -90. Let's confirm. And again, let's duplicate the boolean and apply this one. Again, let's check the geometry. You can see some different cuts happening here. So if you want to make sure that this works nicely, you can press Ctrl R and create another loop cut right here, and it should work nicely. So let's move this up a little bit, like here and here. And now we can select the hierarchy again, tab into the edit mode, enable X-ray view, and we can just press G then Z and move all of this down. Okay, let's tab out, disable the X-ray view, and now we can just modify this so it looks more like a door. So let's extrude it, recalculate normals, and then we can copy the bevel modifier. And now let's create the garage door here. So tab into the edit mode, press 2 for edge select, select this edge at the bottom, hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it. Now we can tab out, let's press Shift A and we'll add a plane. Now tab into the edit mode, press R then X and 90 to rotate 90 degrees, same as before. But now we'll press G then Z and 1, because we know this is 2 meters by default. So if you move it 1 up, it will sit down on its origin point. So we can now press S then X, scale it outside, and of course 2 meters would be a little bit too low. So let's do something like this. And now we can tab out, press Shift D to duplicate and do the same thing. So tab into the edit mode, press A and extrude. And again, A and Shift N to recalculate normals. All is well, so we can press A, G, then Y, and move it inside here. And just to make sure it doesn't intersect with the geometry, I will enable X-ray view, select the bottom face, press G, then Z, and move it down just a notch. Now tab out, and now let's add another Boolean modifier here, and let's choose this. But again, we'll go and set the visibility as bounds and disable it in renders. And now we can just move this one back inside a little bit. And if you want to give it some structure, you can always tab into the edit mode, press Ctrl R, increase number of cuts with the mouse wheel like this, and then press V to separate these into a separate object. So now if you press A and E to extrude, First of all, let's check the normals again. And now we can transfer the same bevel modifier. So hold shift, select this one, for example, and transfer it. And now you will see you get this effect for the garage. Now let's add some more decorations here. So shift right click and we'll create something like a pathway, very simple, something like this, like a slabs of stone, and just Alt D and duplicate it and press Shift R to repeat that operation, and we can push them down a little bit. Okay, and now here I want to create a grass. So yeah, now you can see how you can really easily create the complete house, basically just using a very simple geometry and few modifiers like boolean and bevel, and how you can reuse these parts and change them in the edit mode to quickly get the result you need, and then, you know, play with it, change the proportions so you get the flexibility and speed. Now let's finish this up with some of that grass on the bottom here and on the roof. So first of all, let's create a grass blade. So shift right click here and let's press Shift A and we'll create a plane, tab into the edit mode, press S to scale it down like this, and now press 1 for vertex select these two, press G then Y and move it up, and now Ctrl R and create two cuts here. And now let's scale these inside, something like that. Should be very simple. Now let's look from the side here, let's help ourselves with the X-ray view, and now just move these like that, so there's a little bit of a bend. Now make sure this is going along the Y-axis this way, okay? And let's make sure it's down here hidden, and let's press F2 and call it blade. Now let's select this part, disable X-ray view, and we'll split this. So tab into the edit mode, and we can basically just select the top face, press G then Z, move it down, and now press Shift D and again P enter to separate. Tab out, select the new object, tab in, and before we extrude it, let's switch this back to vertex, press E and hold Ctrl to snap it right here. Now press A and Shift N to recalculate. And now we can press Ctrl R and subdivide this because I want to use the particle system on it. So something like this, and let's click here and let's choose something round like 20. Okay, and let's do one here as well. Let's modify this to 20 as well. Okay, and let's press 1 for vertex select this one here. Hold Ctrl and Shift and click here, that will select the whole patch. And now let's go to the object data properties and in the vertex group create a new one and hit assign. This will be our grass group. And now we can tab out. Let's go to particle systems, let's create a new one. For frame start, let's enter 0 and 0 and lifetime something like 250, so it stays for the rest of the animation if you animate this, and we'll disable physics as well so it doesn't fall down if you play back the animation. Now let's go down here and in the vertex groups, let's choose the group for density. Now you can see it shouldn't be on the sides there. And in the render settings, let's switch the halo to object and we'll choose the blade object. So just search for it here and pick it up. Now let's check the rotation and let's increase the scale here in the render, something like this. And let's do scale randomness like 0.7, and let's switch the phase to something like this, maybe randomize it a little bit and randomize the rotation tiny bit like this. And now we can add more of those grass blades like this, something like 7,000. Don't go too wild with this, and I think this is a little bit too large, so we can definitely go a little bit smaller on the scale and increase the density here. So let's do something like 20k. Okay, looks quite okay. And now we'll go into the vertex paint mode. So select the object, go Ctrl and Tab and go weight paint, and let's slide the weight all the way to 0. And let's just paint over here so we get rid of those particles around those slabs, around the pathway. So you can easily just paint away those particles like this. Okay. Looks quite okay. So now let's select the roof, tab into the edit mode, and with this still selected, let's press Shift D and P and separate it, and we'll use this to spawn the same particles. So tab out, select that new object right here, and now in the particle settings, let's create a new one, but here we'll choose the original particle settings, but we don't have any group. So tab into the edit mode, let's press Ctrl R and give this some mesh density, and now select this vertex, hold Ctrl and Shift, select this one, and in the vertex groups create a new one and hit assign. And now in the particle settings you should be able to select the group, and of course we have some leftover modifier here, so remove the bevel modifier and you get the same grass right here on this patch. And yeah, I really like this, so we can just proceed and, you know, create some basic render out of this. Maybe I will bevel this as well, so there's a clear separation there, so I'll copy to select it here. And yeah, now let's hit 0 on a numpad for a camera view, and let's select the camera, press G and Z twice to move it outside. And now in the camera settings, let's switch this to orthographic and orthographic scale like this, because moving the camera won't help us that much, and just move it up a little bit. And now let's go to output settings and switch this to something like 1600 to 1200, and press Ctrl B and limit the preview only for camera bounce, and we'll add some background as well. So hold Shift S, snap cursor to world origin, let's press Shift A, add a plane and scale it up like this, and press G then Z and move it down. Okay, and now let's press Shift A, add a light and sunlight, press G then Z, move it up, and now you can just rotate it in relation to the camera like this. You will see it rotated this way. So now if we go to the render settings, switch to cycles, GPU, and enable denoising, and I will enable GPU denoising here as well, and switch the samples to something like 512. Now if you preview the rendered view, you will see something like this. Now there's one more thing we need to do with these Boolean cutout objects, because as you can see in the render preview, they're still visible, even though in the final render there wouldn't be. So we can just select them. Let's go to solid view so it's easier to do. And let's just select all of them by holding Shift. And now go to the object properties, and in the visibility, we can disable all the ray visibility options right here. But if you want to do it for all the objects, if you have selected them like this, you can hold Alt key and we'll do the action on all the selected objects. So hold Alt key and just click all of these options off. And now if you select this one, for example, you can see it's disabled, same as here. And now if I preview it, it shouldn't be visible there as well, but we still have the visible bounds. So now let's select the sunlight and let's add some more strength to it, something like 3 or maybe 2 should be enough. And let's create some backlight as well. So press Shift A and create an area light, press G and Z, move it up, and let's increase the size here and change this to disk. And now let's switch the pivot point to 3D cursor, and now we can press R then X, rotate it right here, and then R then Z and rotate from the back like this. And now we can do something really strong like 1500 or maybe even more, maybe 25, and we have a nice backlight right here. Now select the background, create a new material, and let's go something dark and a little bit blue maybe, and increase the roughness all the way. And let's select the sunlight and we can increase the angle so shadows are not so sharp. Now let's select the bottom piece and let's create like a dirt layer there. And for this grass patch, let's do something green something like this. But of course we'll need to find that blade object and create a grass material there as well. Maybe we can do a little bit of a different shade, this something slightly darker. And now we'll create the wall material. I think the white looks fine. Select the garage door and let's do like a darker material there. Same for the door and for the frames. So yeah, let's do something like this. And here it will change for both of those. And now finally we can add some emission. So let's switch this to emission. And let's do something like 5 and something warmer. And do the same thing here. And of course you can really ramp this up and create like an ad render if you wish. And finally let's take care of this, and I think something with a little bit of a contrast will look fine. Okay, something dark. So now let's duplicate this area light. Press Shift D, press Z, move it down, and press Alt R to reset the rotation. I want to add a little bit more light on the background down there, something like this, and maybe color it a little bit so we have like this nice, you know, halo effect around the house. And finally, in the world settings we can increase the ambience a little bit and add some more color, and this is where it will really start to come together, because you can color it a little bit better and create a nice stylized effect here like this, and blend all of those colors together. Maybe this can go a little bit darker now, or with a different shade like this. Okay, and finally in the render and color management you can increase the contrast settings and play with the exposure. So if it's too dark you can raise up the exposure. And of course now you can always go back to the lighting settings and play around with those colors. For example, you can try to add a little bit more lights, or you can try to color those ambient lights like this. You can maybe make this backlight an orange. You will see it will kind of create this golden hour effect on the roof, and you can try to move it around a little bit, maybe even duplicate the light and have some more light coming here from the side. So yeah, really this is up to you what you want to do right now. Yeah, let me just rotate this a little bit. I think it will really help if we have some of the light coming from the side here, and then, you know, go back to those materials, play with those colors, maybe make the grass a little bit more subtle, and finally again those contrast and exposure settings if you made some changes. So yeah, that's the quick architectural tutorial here in Blender using some simple tools and simple tricks, and I really hope you enjoyed this one. And again, if you did, please leave that like, and if you want to learn more, hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.